BookTube. I'm here with my second video in the No Shame series that I've planned. I'm here to address certain issues that I see in the BookTube community. So please try and keep in mind that any way to strengthen any community is actually to allow for discussion and dissent to take place. So in this series of videos, I just like to discuss a few of the more popular trends in the community and kind of play the devil's advocate. So reading has taught me that people shouldn't be so eager to hop on bandwagons and that they should not be so eager to go along with everyone else or to follow the example of a few without thinking things thoroughly through themselves. And so today's video is going to be about reading diversely. So let me clarify that this by saying that I think it's important to read books by a variety of different people, and I'm not poo-pooing the idea of reading diversely. I just kind of want to get you to question what it actually means to do that. So diversity is the buzzword for BookTube in 2015. On almost every 2015 reading goals video that I watched, everyone had the goal to read more diversely. Generally, this means reading books by people of color, females, or members of the LGBTQ community. And diversity actually means a lot of things to different people, and this is where I think BookTube kind of should stop and think about what they're doing. Because for some people, actually reading white male American authors is quite different from what they normally read, so why wouldn't that be considered reading diversely? Why should they feel ashamed that they are reading these books by these people? This next question really addresses the issue of race. I really think that a lot of people don't actually stop and think about it. At least that's what I think I've found. So what counts actually as a person of color? Do Aboriginals count? Do Latinos count? Do Asians count? You know, is the experience of someone from another culture, one different from your own, whether they be of European descent or American or African descent, to be discounted because they are not people of color? And this brings up the issue of authenticity and tokenism. We all know the idea of the token black character in lots of movies and such, but we want to know, you know, by people of color, what are you expecting your author to be like? Are you expecting to be that authentic person? So, you know, you get told, you know, you're Native American, but you're not really Native American, you know, you kind of look like it, but you don't act it. Or you're black, but you're not black, you know, you're an apple, you're an Oreo, those kind of derogatory terms that we hear in regards to how you act out your race. You know, I myself am Native American, and am I not Native enough for you because I don't have the experience of growing up on a reservation, of, you know, or I don't have that experience of overcoming these issues that face a lot of Native Americans today? You know, is the author not black enough for you because she wasn't raised in the hood, because she was raised in an affluent community? No, and is skin color all you really care about here? Or are you caring about the idealized stereotype of that race? And I think if you are, then you are really having a problem there, and that you really need to assess again who you are reading and why you are reading. If you're reading someone just because you pick up the book and on the back they're black, but you know absolutely nothing about their culture, how they grew up, you're being just as racist, I think. Probably not the correct term, but you're assuming certain things about them based on their skin color, as opposed to actually knowing about them and how they grew up and their experiences. And again, I think by using that term people of color and saying, oh, I've read, you know, so many books by black authors, so many books by Asian authors, so many books by, you know, Latino authors, you're kind of grouping them together, and that actually does more harm than good. So I'm pretty sure an African person growing up in Chad has a much different experience from an African person growing up in South Africa. I mean, so saying you've read 10 books by African authors really makes as much sense as saying you've read 10 books by men, because you're kind of grouping everyone together. You know, you have to acknowledge that they have these different cultures, they have these different histories, they have these different experiences that all reflect in the way that they write. And I mean, by dismissing white authors right off the bat, I mean, you're assuming that authors from Poland or Armenia or Ukraine don't in fact have a different experience from those from, say, England or America, when in fact they do. I mean, if you look at the history of those places, they have a lot of turmoil and everything, and recent turmoil and everything that would reflect in the books, which would give a completely different experience than, say, someone who, again, grew up in an affluent neighborhood despite their skin color. And I really think that a lot of what I find a lot of people doing is that they're making it kind of a novelty figure by making it about statistics and numbers and doing these charts and everything. Like, great for you. I mean, you've read 25% books by people of color and 15% by females and 5% by LGBTQ authors in 2014, but really you have to ask yourself, what was the quality of the writing? Were the characters believable? Was it a good book? Did it matter what their skin color was? The characters? Was the color of their skin explicitly stated? Or did you assume because the author is black or gay or transsexual that the character is then reflected in that? And I mean, what did you really gain by these books? Was it anything of value besides entertainment? Was it really a different experience from reading a book by a straight white American author? And if it's not, then what have you accomplished really by reading diversely here? People really shouldn't be reduced to statistics and numbers. I mean, you should strive to diversify your reading, whatever that means to you, but to really boil it down to kind of this percentages and all that stuff, I find it really demeaning. But I really think you should feel not guilty. You should not feel guilty that you only read one book by someone who's not of the same race or the same gender or the same language speaker or the same sexual orientation as you. You should never really feel guilty about what you're reading, even if it is by primarily dead white men. You know, again, I just want to ask this question to you. Why are you reading diversely? Is it because other people are and you feel guilty for not doing it? You know, and seriously think about this, because I know that some of the more popular booktubers may make you feel pressured into doing this. I'm not saying that it is their fault for doing this. I'm just saying that we all strive to you know, emulate our idols or whatever, and these people are popular for a reason. But are you reading diversely because these people are, or because you genuinely feel like you need to read experiences of different people from different environments? And that's my rant. I'm very passionate about this. I kind of get a little twitch in my face every time I see someone say, oh, I'm reading diversely, I'm reading by a black author. I'm like, okay, but where's that black author from? What has their work done? What does it reflect? You know, all these kind of things, instead of just being proud of yourself for noticing the skin color of the author in their author photo. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. So remember to keep on reading whatever you want to read.
Hey, you might want to check out Pickle's Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, and other social media links in the description bar underneath.